Welcome, welcome. I think this is copyright free. I don't know. It's on YouTube, so hopefully it's fun. I believe it's from this person, but I tried to find this from this person. I couldn't, but so I'm not sure that it actually is their music. Anyway, I thought maybe I'll turn it down so I can't hear it as much. I thought I would talk about, well, look into this region. Last video, it occurred to me there was some kind of eddy going on here. So today, I generally drew this. So there's a current going across that way into Mammoth Step. There's a current coming in here, and then there's current going the opposite way, westward, around this region that this like transitions into. And then this current coming from up here that I just drew there, but going to the Kaligandaki Valley. And then this current over here, which we talked about recently in like the Hershey Kiss location. The smallest one, there's several. So there's one here that's kind of like there. But then there's a larger one that goes up there. Same side over here, but then it has a larger side. It kind of goes out like that. Or even out there. And then there's a larger one up here that seems to go something of that nature as well, where it's way more influence over here at that point than it is in this one. But just something of note, it kind of gave me the impression that's like the perfectly through path there. And anything going this way generally went this way. Which then led me to realizing that the current went this way up here, ran into resistance from this current, bent down, and swirled here. So we were talking about this area yesterday, or ish, Mammoth Step episode. And, yeah, it occurred to me, yeah, this definitely is. So I decided, like scrolling in, if we look at it here, there's basically a route here that continues over here-ish, but then here, down here, that goes down here, kind of like arms of a hurricane, and then around to like this boundary, but also around really out here at this boundary, as well as out here, like literally out here, around here, down here, this way over here, but then over here, like here, kind of going this way too. There's a smaller one that then goes around and in this way, like generally from here to this. And then generally from this one up here to this inner one. So there's an outer ring and then an inner ring. This one spirals in here, possibly goes out like across here as well to this region, like drains out here and goes around. But then it's pushed up this location to kind of form this wall. And then goes around, forms another boundary, but also goes up and over and in, and we see a spiral generally here as well. And then it kind of becomes like just layers of curls wrapping into like this wall, creating this segment between the currents that are going around the outside and then pushing in on this side, creating like a etched, elongated structure here that kind of, I guess, participates in holding this current in place. Like, had it been able to fully etch this, maybe it would have centered itself more here and had to affect more like this. But because it was like lodged up there, it was able to just affect here and not down here so much. This was more just a cross current going this way that also went off and went down this way. More calm region. Okay, so I decided, like I said, to plot this, and then I went in close and tried to start kind of mapping the currents, and I thought that maybe that was a little too close. I wanted to just like go right here, but instead it occurred to me maybe I'll do out a little further, even though I can't see quite as well. Like we can't see quite as well here, but we can still see lines. Okay, so view, fit on screen. So I drew this current going across the top here, generally across the top. This one, which also goes like along this boundary here, like here, and holds this boundary. Okay, which is all what this is. So these, all the dotted dashed lines are where the current flow, based on color, is applying pressure to the side or to the front of it or whatever, some type of pressure that's applying, but it's meeting resistance from another current. Like this current's freely flowing generally through here. But then it meets the resistance of another current, so we go out. A current's going across here, around this way, and it looks like up here as well as down. Like down here, around it. But this looks kind of like a swirl maybe even happened. Some kind of eddy here that went inward and then allowed currents to go especially up here and then especially out here, creating this in this location, but then going with another boundary, so forming natural boundaries between a wider current that has one boundary form here, another boundary form here where the current comes in through here, between here and here, so like this boundary current comes in there, but then the same current generally, but with a split naturally forms here where it goes across here, but then it self-divides maybe because it's running into resistance, so it starts to become more of an eddy atop here that encourages currents across, but especially like makes it maybe a secondary location compared to this as a flow current, where current's flowing, place where current's flowing. Oh my god. Like, I think I'm just decaying into the abyss. Currents also gets through here, like right here, from this way, but it generally goes across here. I believe it went at this angle, like hit off of this and bent, coming from over here, like coming down here, out of here. Currents are wrapping around and then flowing out this way though, that then go down this way and into here, but also across this way along the Azores Plateau that had formed by the compression of the currents, just like it forms these mounds. All these compressed locations are formed by the current flows along them. So there's one going that way, there's one going this way, there's one going this way, holding the three boundaries forming this structure, which is in this instance, but in these instances there's a current going generally across here and up this way that I guess there's possibly some current outflow this way as well. That's like going across there. I'm not completely sure what's up with that. That might actually, looking at it here, that's right. It ties back to here, which ties back to here. So the Great Lakes episodes where I'm talking about this region, where there's a current that goes out this way, and comes out here and goes down this way, but it also goes this way, and it goes to here, where it then goes here, but also ultimately before the Earth expanded to here, where it starts to like really etch into this region because it's running into current that I guess is going around here, or down and around this resistance and bending up this way. Bending up this way, probably actually bending up this way off of the Azores Plateau, but then that current itself ran into that current that was coming like a jet stream across this way, and ended up getting forced more this way as well. So it went across this way and had a portion go up this way. Which then just formed the boundaries in this region. Etched all of this structure around here. Possibly current went like across this way and wrapped around here. Current was going up this way. Maybe here it wrapped around like this, running back into itself and then back this way. I don't know, let's not get too distracted on that because I didn't really think about this region. Maybe doing it twice there. But so the current goes across from there and then generally fans out. So real quick, like it goes along this way, which actually goes along this way as like a middle point of the current, which ties into Lake Baikal's like making for sure. But like the far side of the current extends over here, and it has like a mirror, just like this portion, this width here. So the current's probably going across to there. Like this current goes across at its furthest to the side, it goes over this way, and then makes it over to there. And elongates this more like that. Okay, but I really didn't do that. I did these, so let's look at these. So the current comes in here, maybe down that way a little more, so trying to actually follow the structure of the Earth. So we have a current coming in this way, and another like portion of that current coming in over Spain, and it then flows into that current and pinches this structure. Like their interaction causes this current to go up this way. Then this current continues through, branching up this way. This current like goes up, and my interpretation is it basically is filling the pressure in front of it, branching around, but then running into one another here, so they kind of avoid this location. One second. So they avoid this location because they run into each other, but then they push out the boundary here as well as this boundary that they can along this side, so it's not quite as pointy as it could have been. It's more rounded. It's even got like a flat face here and a bulge to this, like a roundedness to it, as if the collision pushed out, especially at the center. Maybe at two separate boundaries, like one from the top side, one from the bottom side pushing in. Maybe. But then the current kept going, so let's keep going. So the current made it through here, kept going, where it went this way through here. So it's going to run into resistance. That's why it's forming these boundaries like this. This, I believe, is incorrect. Maybe I should redo this real quick. Let's just make sure that's the right color. Go ahead and erase this. I believe it went the other way. I believe that this current overwhelms this current enough that it goes in here. Like this way. But then this current is more direct, maybe like right there, so it bends it down like that. But then it runs into this current over here, which then bends it like that, but it runs into that current, which bends it, and it forms a structure like that. That also encourages the current from this region. So it basically balloons this region and then encourages this current through here and this current through here while filling this pressure. It's kind of what I'm thinking. But in this direction, not the way I had it drawn initially. And then this current also continues atop the land, like it's not stuck in the Mediterranean. It's literally the global flood is occurring and it reaches the depths, but it goes above the depths, so it flows across here as well. Specifically at this far point, and not so much over here where it's like bent. It gets through over here, but then it starts to bend, so it doesn't have the momentum in this direction. It has more momentum going in this direction. So it does that. Also goes down here, over here, interacts, and goes down here, here, here. Splits into those locations, kind of, as it goes across. Like there's pressure here, so let's go ahead and put the pressure in. Now we got the pressure in. Actually, I feel like, let's put that one in. Yeah. Okay, this is good. This is kind of like the main conduit. Like there's multiple currents from over here, from this region, flowing over like to the Himalayas and then like along them. And then that like shoots a beam like here into this Hershey Kiss thing, but then larger ones over here as it like basically deflects. The current comes across and deflects off of the pressure point of this like peak in the Himalayas here, which is connected, I guess, to this other thing that connects back to that structure we talked about before, recently, last episodes. So it deflects off of it though, like comes across, deflects off of it, and goes down and up and around. But it deflects off of it in several ways, where it goes up here, down, up, down, like something of that nature. And then also over this way, and like something of this nature maybe. Possibly like that, where it actually comes off over here. Generally over here, like over here. And then it runs into that current more so and bends off it there, like at the last second, and goes up this way. So we got all these currents interacting that are all kind of generally from the same location. Just like over here, these are more like spread out across one another. They're not interacting so much with themselves, where this one's just wobbling and crossing one another all over the place. So that's what I mapped here, is this one coming in this way, and then continuing straight, applying this pressure. So that red current comes in across, pushes pressure out here, turns in, and creates these extensions. More so visible on this side, but like it flows out here, kind of extension, and then over here. This is probably more node-like because it's approaching this current over here, so it can't really like push a bulge like this, a space. It could only compress maybe more so, but it still has a ring to it. That's not the only current going in there either. Okay, so essentially the current that goes more straight across goes into here. Then the next like layer goes a little lower, but it basically goes directly across, like right across here. Something like that, where this inlet and this flow are opposing. So essentially above that opposition it goes up, and then just below it, it's able to be bent down this way. Which some of it just goes past and flows, and some of it goes this way, some of it goes this way, some of it goes off this way. But in essence, it's like generally producing a boundary here of an eddy that's swirling inward, because as it flows this way, it runs into this. As it flows over here, it runs into the current flowing down here across this way. And so it's pushed back up, but then it flows into the current flowing across this way, so it basically is caused to eddy here. Some of it gets out because this cross current is getting through and pushes some of it out and encourages like a exhaust in that direction. But so it swirls in, swirls in, swirls in, and then crosses over and over. And then notably, as you can see, it goes up and then bends around and down and across and out this way. So let's check it out. So we see these spirals around here, around here, around here, and then a crossover there. But down here we see them going like not at the same location. They're going like around like that. Where over here it kind of wraps in. So it's kind of wrapping in here, but then over here it's doing this, and then it goes out this way and up this way. Like gets through the resistance of the cross current of itself flowing in the eddy this way through it to this brace point where there's going to be pressure pushing downward and around it and then up to flow along. So then we got the current above. We'll get back to this region. Current above it that basically is flowing beyond this one. Maybe let's real quick do that. Do that, and just add that real quick. There's probably some of the green current involved in this too, especially because of the arc. But I'm just gonna put that. Like the green current's probably cutting into this relatively, and just interacting. Maybe just creating like a more of a slower current flow this way, but this current generally is able to extend up to here and influence like the main current, and then the upper tier of the current flows above it like this down here, and then above this where it then reaches all the way over here and then goes around like this, I believe. Like from here, it starts to run into this current. So it wraps around and participates for sure in this segment here. And like the general divide. Maybe it even holds a boundary here. While pressure pushes along this side and compresses this region of Norway. I think that's Norway, not Sweden. That's Norway, Sweden. Okay. Always checking. What is this one? Still Denmark. It's so crazy. But we kind of can see like a pinch point there, like a nozzle that then goes across this way and over here. It maybe goes outside of this and in here. I don't know. Or maybe out to here. I don't know. But so there's that current flowing. This is my interpretation, is that many of them are bouncing off of this and kind of dividing into several, like over there, rather than this being like this current over here flowing down here and then bouncing off of that and going up that way. Like it could be largely because of a current going that way, but I believe it's actually a current goes this way and this way, and then this current like joins it up here, so it adds. It's not just this current's flow, it's maybe more so this current's flow up until here, and then the portion that divided here that doesn't get wrapped down here because of the pressures of just the amount of material down there flowing into that eddy, just allows for an offshoot up this way, which then goes out that way and runs into a cross current then heavily that bends it that way. So we definitely got a current going heavily up this way, pushing into this side, the western boundary of Europe and northern Asia. Which is definitely coming off of North America in the sequence of things. Possibly at some point going back to North America, but so we got that current holding that boundary, which is then interacting with the red current. So the purple current, light purple current, interacts with the red current. This one also goes up here and interacts. creating this boundary from the red side, this boundary, I didn't draw it, but this boundary pretty much, actually, no, I drew something else. I think something else is, maybe the red one gets in there too, along these paths, and goes down this way, like down here, but down this way. Maybe it actually does. Once we look at what I drew, maybe it actually goes that way in the opposite. Maybe. Could it be? So my thought was that this current here that ran into this location and over this way basically extended further south. It's almost like the portion that goes up and the portion that goes down produce a boundary right there, or participate in that boundary's formation, possibly encouraged by the structure of the the earth as a whole, under layers. So then it's got a current going this way. It's really, to me, suggests there's a current going, holding this boundary across, going that way. Like right along this boundary. Not sure why it wouldn't have more mountains here, like more compaction. Maybe it was able to get through the resistance. Like over here, there's so much resistance, it just compacted stuff. But over here, it just bounced off the resistance. This is like the bounce point where current flowed in and just went around it like that, maybe. So it's highly possible that this one is actually flowing every way in the opposite direction, where it goes, where it starts as this red current and actually goes this way. Although, let's look at this. This location right here, I thought really pointed to a current going this way and going like that. Like if this current comes here, it's just not gonna do this. So I think it is a current. Like if we look here, I'll tell you how I arrived at what I drew, because it's definitely complex, but we can see in Turkey, like here, we can see currents flow that way, this way, around this structure. Something going on here that kind of wraps around. I interpreted this as it basically went, like for sure here, there's something for sure going around here and up here, and then basically bending off, so maybe around, up, and joining this current, up and joining. like that. So just going up and joining that current. Up, join, join, all these ones wrapping around. So kind of that to me would mean it's continuously going up and in that way. So that means it's coming back from over here like that. So it came in, went around, goes like this, comes up, bounces off itself, and goes that way. So that's what I drew. Is it comes in, goes around, bounces off itself, and goes that way. Also comes in at a earlier point, forming the inner portion of Cypress, bound like this half. So like there's a current that goes right here, bends off of the resistance and wraps around and goes up and then in, and then wraps around this way, like down like that. And then there's this current, though, coming in, like, within the boundaries of the seas, not on the seas, like within the within the land regions that are presently land, flowing over here, that pushes these boundaries relative to the portion flowing above there, so they squeeze these boundaries. As well as up here, squeeze a boundary, so like this current above gets mostly focused through this channel, and a narrow channel where the adjacent current extends upward and pushes into the boundary here and bounces off all the way up here. So that really comes down across here and bounces off of this resistance of the current here, bounces off, goes up and into the spiral. So that's what that is here, going with this line, dotted line here. Current through, by the way, that cuts through there. I don't think I mentioned that. It cuts through there. So it goes around here, bounces off here and down that way, but it also joins, part of it joins that current, like a wavelength later, maybe. Like down here, wavelength later. They separate there. That's interesting, that there's some separation there and then some reconvergence. Loses some material up to the upper half at this point, but then it regains some material from the bottom half at this point. That's interesting. Like a wavelength later. Okay, anyway, current flows through, produces this boundary relative to this, the lighter purple here, and bounces off of it, goes down here, through here, pushing this boundary. So that's, and also flowing here, I believe, like it made it through, which is why we have this like feature there. So then we've got this current cutting across fully, like just the same. They're kind of opposite, so it's coming in at its peak. It's going generally straight across here, holding this boundary. Like generally just across this boundary and across here. But the thing is, it's got so much like straight momentum, it's not bending, that it's got a lot of current behind it in a straight path, pushing the current ahead. So it collides with this current as well and separates and goes up this way, where it then like interacts with this red current, pushing this Italy into being pretty much by the interaction between them, and flows in here and fills that little space, while the red current kind of gets through at the top here, because that's where the dark purple current is weakest. like it's furthest from its source, if you will. So it's weakest, so it's more able to just pass at this boundary over here, I guess. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Although it's a little odd that I guess its momentum carries it into this side rather than this side. But then it also continues straight, but what doesn't bend in here continues straight and fills this little nook. And then again fills this nook is what I was thinking. Like where this current is flowing. I think this is actually what made me realize I was wrong about this direction. The directions in here, like they got two little centers. Looks almost like it ended up creating like parallel features like over here in the triangle shape in the wedge. Interesting. But so I guess the current made it through this way and then made it through over here and kind of etched in here while holding the boundary. And then down here, it just kind of filled that region because of the eddies here. Which possibly got through over here. Although I think it really came in this way and wrapped around. Like the current was going around enough that it pulled the material to wrap around. Because it didn't have to form in this shape. This shape suggests that it kind of made its way that way. I guess just ran into resistance here, I don't know. Enough to bend it and bend around here. Maybe feed it across there. Okay, so I think that this pretty legitimately provides mechanisms. So my thought is that all this is flood water when the Earth is flooded from the Earth expansion process when the Earth was attacked by vortex weapons that sunk ancient Dwarka. But the Earth became flooded completely and water was flowing on the surface as the Earth expanded, and in a ocean current kind of way where it interacted. And at certain times, things of this nature, like, popped off and, like, really exponentially created some kind of, some pressure change that, like, could uplift mountains, but, like, they were pushing, like, imagine this eddy, or, like, two eddies are next to each other, pushing into a slab between that's got a certain amount of resistance, but then, like, it can't withstand the compaction eternally, and at some point it just, like, compresses enough to, like, open up space, and suddenly the process is, like, in another step in the process of the Earth's expansion that has occurred, kind of thing, where it's like, okay, then the Alps had this uplift and this sequence, like this event in the Appalachians. Like, there's several Appalachian steps. It's not just like suddenly existed. And that's because these currents were flowing throughout the process, like from basically the times of 550 million years, practically, when Canada, when this region had eddies flowing atop it pretty early on, like distinguishably by like 300s at the latest, or at the earliest, I guess, at the most recent 300 million radiometric dating. Like, these currents flowed over here to 60 million, to 20 million. I mean, they were going until pretty recently, when the Earth fully expanded and then was able to have the oceans drain into them. But the thing is like, it didn't just instantaneously do it. I think it mostly drains rapidly, but like, then the process began to slow down until like it drained and then it slowed down, so it's kind of flatlined. But compared to today, it still was like draining. So there was this period of non-equilibrium that was after the flood, but before stabilization of the bodies of water on the planet. Okay. That brings me to, I was like, dude, this looks like a hurricane. It just looks like a hurricane. I posted it. Here, let me just pull up the Twitter post. I really hope this video... So here's this. Here's this, so we can see again. Just all the spirals and things. And here's a hurricane. I mean, it really very much has that kind of armbands and things around it. Okay. So I was like, aren't there like myths about maelstroms? So I just went maelstrom mythology. Maelstrom, a powerful whirlpool. Yeah, that sounds like kind of what I was thinking. Character from Ice Age. And I end up finding Charybdis, which, Charybdis, ancient Greek, is a sea monster in Greek mythology. She, with the sea monster Scylla, appears as a challenge to epic characters such as Odysseus, Jason, and Aeneas. Scholarship locates her in the Strait of Messina. The idiom between Scylla and Charybdis has come to mean being forced to choose between two similarly dangerous situations. The sea monster Charybdis was believed to live under a rock on one side of a narrow channel. Opposite her was Scylla, another sea monster that lived inside a much larger rock. What if? I don't know. So my thoughts are, maybe there's two eddies. So there's an eddy here. Relatively a maelstrom in the land. Here. And then one here. I don't think this is doing that. That would be interesting if it was talking about that. Lived inside a much larger rock. The sides of the strait were within an arrow shot of each other, and sailors attempting to avoid one of them would come in reach of the other. To be between Scylla and Charybdis, therefore, means to be presented with two opposite dangers, the task being to find a route that avoids both. 3 times a day, Charybdis swallowed a huge amount of water before belching it back out again, creating large whirlpools capable of dragging a ship underwater. In some variations of the story, Charybdis was simply a large whirlpool instead of a sea monster. Just had a realization with the Bermuda Triangle, maybe. Through the description of Greek mythical chroniclers and Greek historians such as Thucydides, modern scholars generally agree that Charybdis was said to have been located in the Strait of Messina off the coast of Sicily and opposite a rock on the mainland identified with Scylla. A whirlpool does exist there, caused by currents meeting, but it is dangerous only to small craft in extreme conditions. So my thought was, what if there was a time when this eddy was forming, the Earth was expanding, and this was totally atop the Earth's surface with water, and that water started to drain, but it didn't drain so rapidly as it seemed because it's got all these like barriers that maybe relatively held some of it, like maybe over here even flowed out this way and just kind of would feed water into this region over from here, basically from this stop, that then would flow over here, but especially creating turbulence maybe through this region, where what I noticed is there's kind of like generally a circlish oval type structure here, another here, these two here, or chain of them, maybe even several. Kind of like chains of spaces that got opened and occupied by eddies that then my thought is maybe an eddy actually was forming here, like out of here, flowing over here, trying to get out, but it couldn't, so it just kind of do this as like the flow rate here. And the flow rate the flow rate out was less than the flow rate in. So it would like accumulate water and have like an eddy structure here and naturally form that then would belch out whirlpools, like create these whirlpools around it, and then eddies over here. From a flow this way, pressure over here holding the boundary pretty much. Like it had to drain out, but it couldn't drain out so fast that it actually had a period of time that was like perhaps thousands of years, to the point of the time of the Odyssey, or when the Odyssey is said to have been. Like Homer's Odyssey is thought to be the mythical Charybdis mentioned in Homer's Odyssey. I mean, this thing, when did the Odyssey take place? And we're seeing 1200 BC there, 1200 BCE. Like, I'll just restart that there. Somehow, I was like, I think this is the first song. Pretty much got in the same spot. But yeah, that's my thoughts, is there's a temporary phase of draining that led to water accumulating over here, not here. Like it drained through here, off of the land, into the, like, basin region more so. But then that caused pressure at this final node in this chain of possible basin chambers. Like this one got kind of fed down into here. Had the shape for it as well to kind of form an eddy there. That's my thoughts. If it's really related to this strait right here, then it's because there were eddies forming over here and eddies over here, whirlpools that literally would spawn within them and around them other whirlpools that would bring in ships into the whirlpool and basically consume them. And that it would do it with a regularity, like a pulse, because it was the draining process until it's stabilized, and then now it just doesn't do that. Maybe relatively back to Bermuda Triangle, like over here there's an eddy, so maybe it's related to that. Like it kicks off eddies occasionally. Sometimes it produces eddies, and sometimes those eddies will, like, consume ships and then be gone because they don't last forever. And then in terms of the eddy, like the eddy is short-lived, consumes a ship, and then like someone comes along, and even if they find the ship, there's no sign of the eddy that consumed the ship. And maybe even eddies that can, like, interact with at elevation into the air and, like, take down planes. I don't know. That was my thought, though, with the Bermuda Triangle. That there's also a similar Bermuda Triangle-esque thing, I believe, in one of these lakes. Maybe Lake Superior, maybe Lake Michigan. The Bermuda Triangle of the Great Lakes. Lake Michigan Triangle. Plane crashes, unexplained circumstances, UFOs. Over here. So like the center of the eddy is like this, is the boundary of the eddy, and then the center is like this. So it's kind of in this ring towards this side. I don't know if that would matter. I believe this eddy is going this way. Yeah. Exhausting that way. Opposite to the exhaust. Exhausting that way, opposite to the exhaust. Or wait, no. Wait. We're not done with this. There's one more. There's a current that goes this way, over here, and then up and through. Let's check it out. It's maybe better to just kind of look at it from afar, but generally around this boundary and up, and then through it like this with up here, just like going through. pushing into this region, and then going up here, I guess running into this current and bending to there, interacting there, going out there though. I mean, this is opposite to this current. So if this eddy I don't know why that would matter particularly, but it is kind of opposite. This spot here. So it's almost like it's got a literal fold wrapping around it, creating like a teardrop thing. Different scale too. Like this kind of has this region at the base, and this does too. Kind of more so on this side, but looks like current went around this way and up, but then what got in, like there's a boundary between here, like there, and current went in this way, that then actually ended up going up to that region and going across the pressure there and joining that. I mean, it may be that this is the maelstrom on a small rock, and this is the maelstrom on a big rock. Also, I mean, there's so many potentials. Whoa, they almost have like shared electrons. This current comes around, goes up, and runs into this current coming down, and they collide at that point. And it goes around, like it goes around there, but it runs into that point. So I guess it does the same here. Comes over. Not sure why there would be one there, because I guess it's going more like up this way, and this is maybe a 90-degree angle, but like off of this path and this path. Like within it, there it is, within this path and this path is one there at the corner. Okay. I guess I'm done for now. Africa. So far, I just kind of have currents going across there. It's hard to say down here where we can't really see anything. I really feel like that makes it so it's much more calm and peaceful in these areas here. Ran into resistance here, I guess. So I guess it was generally calm and peaceful in those locations where currents were colliding. Maybe that was just the equator. I don't know. Or is the equator now enough that it just looks like that? That's probably what it is. It's just the present equator so much it's hard to even tell what it looks like underneath it. This probably looks a lot more like Australia would if Australia was there, and vice versa. Like it would look a lot more like this if it was down here. But I would like to map the whole Earth. I mean, we got Europe pretty much, like, in its totality. I think Europe in its totality, except for some stuff around here and over here, I guess. Certainly nuance could be added with every detail, but like the large scale current flows I think are pretty solidly accounted for here. We've got pretty good progress over here. A little bit here, maybe not so much around the Deccan Traps, where it's actually Deccan Traps and not flooding that I was kind of thinking maybe there's so much heat here that it even kept water away to a degree, like pushed its boundaries, like held its boundary back. That would be crazy. So all this flooding water, any of it approaches a place like the Deccan Traps, although almost certainly the area was generally flooded before the Deccan Traps actually emitted, so I don't know. But we got North America pretty well done in its entirety. Not so much over here. Not so much down here, but even down there somewhat. Definitely not so much in this region, but that's pretty well accounted for in general. It would be cool to map it all. I mean, I got an idea of how this is happening, and this that I've already established, if you will, of the Hawaiian sphere sending currents into this side of South America, but then the currents off of East African Rift bending up this way and coming over here and holding this boundary. But after that, there's a lot more. I have no idea what to make of any of this, really. It's almost like hidden. Same for Antarctica and Australia. Like, I don't know how to include Australia in current flow paths without putting it over here and trying to go from there. But it certainly interacts with stuff over here. Like, it needs to be accounted for with other systems first around it. That reminds me. Can I find this? Yes. Found this website. Expanding Earth. It puts Papua New Guinea pretty much where I've been saying. I think it's incorrect though. In terms of, I think what happens is like the Earth starts to expand by a current going over here to here, and that literally takes Antarctica and Australia and disconnects them along this boundary and reconnects Australia's Papua New Guinea that was up here to over here at some intermediary time. Possibly brought India with it while the Tethys Ocean formed, basically. And then the Tethys Ocean existed for a while, and while the Earth was still building up pressures. And then at some point the Tethys Ocean closed by what then ends up being the Pacific opening like this. Like India did kind of break away and have a space form for the Tethys Ocean to form in the interim, because it started as a single landmass, but then the Tethys Ocean formed in the beginning phases of expansion, and then the Pacific Ocean formed, and that's really when the Earth expanded to its present state, was when the Pacific formed. The Tethys was just kind of a intermediary stepping stone on the way. Okay, guys, that's all I got for now. Hope that was interesting and informative. I feel pretty excited by it. I don't know much about the geology of this region. I know there's a lot to account for, and I'm sure there's nuances that would be redirecting of things I said, and subtle directions in the flows, but like this... Peace.